Hi, welcome to Conversations with Coach Lloyd. Tonight, my guest is Sika Henry. Sika is a corporate analyst for Ferguson Enterprises and a professional triathlete based in Newport News, Virginia. As a collegiate high jumper and sprinter, Sika became an NCAA All-American in track and field while earning her degree in economics from Tufts University. She is a 2019 Ironman World Championship finisher and a two-time marathon champion. After recovering from a traumatic bike accident that left Sika with significant injuries, she made history when she became the first African-American woman to race as a professional triathlete in September 2021. Sika was named Athlete of the Year as part of the 2020 Outspoken Women in Triathlon Awards for her work to advocate for and make positive change in the sport of triathlon. On April 30th, 2022, Sika will be inducted into the National Black Distance Running Hall of Fame. Please welcome my guest, Sika Henry.
Hi.
How's it going, Sika?
Good. Always good to see you.
Welcome.
Thank
How's
you.
it going?
Pretty good.
Good.
Yeah.
I've been waiting to have a conversation with you for a long time. You had so much going on with, getting your pro card, racing, everything like that. I decided to let everyone get a chance to talk to you first, and once you had a window, invite you for a chance to have a conversation when life wasn't as hectic. So thank you for joining me.
Yep. Well, you caught me at the right time. I'm actually going to Mexico tomorrow with one of my girlfriends who's a professional triathlete, so I'm really chill right now.
Okay. Oh, wow. So is that vacation or work?
Yep. Vacation.
Oh, yes.
On a resort. Yep. I'm actually going back to Cancun. I am not racing this time. I'm not flying with a bike. I do have a 50-mile race next month, so I have to get my butt up and run every day. But other than that,
I heard about that. Well, since you brought it up, so yes. That's the JFK 50-miler, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. How,
I know. I don't know what I'm doing.
Start to unpack that. So you're going to go on vacation, and after vacation, come back and hammer out an ultra marathon.
Yeah. Well, I'll have about, I'll have a few weeks, but I have been training. I just did an 18-mile run yesterday. So I'm gradually building up my miles again. And I think I still have a pretty good endurance base just from training for half Ironmans all year. So, but I know 50 miles is going to hurt pretty bad. So, but no pressure for me. I mean, I'm not trying to win the thing. It's just me trying to do something new and give it a go and see if I can make it 50 miles.
Wow. Okay. Have you done a 50 miler before or?
No, this is my first. Yeah. So this all kind of came about last year during the pandemic. There weren't races going on. And locally, they were going to put on a 50K, so 31 miles, and it was supposed to take place in November. But then they ended up canceling it because of COVID and pandemic and stuff. So my friend Steven, who actually is won like Ultraman Florida, Steven Keller, really talented, he offered to still pace me through 50K last year. So we made up like a makeshift course. My house was the aid station, like my driveway. We had like our water bottles set up and everything, and we did 3 loops and we ran. I think he took me through the marathon in like 3:09. We ended up running the 50K in like 3:45. So it was painful as hell. It took me like 2 weeks to recover from that, like worse than Kona. But I was like, all right, I kind of got a taste of this ultra thing. And then I was really lucky in January. So I'm sponsored by Hoka, and they put on Project Carbon X2. So they were trying to break the women were trying to break the American record in the 100K. The men were trying to break the world record, and they needed pacers. So I actually got to pace some of the women, and I ran through mile 28, and I got to watch it after. It was awesome. So yeah. It is, and then I'm like, maybe I'll give this a try. Maybe I'll try 50 miles.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to jump way ahead. So is ultra marathon the next frontier? Is that the next
No.
spot, like the gateway?
No.
You know, like I'm a pro, so now I've won a couple marathons. So next level, let's jump into the ultra. Because I mean, if you are, let me know. I'm down for the jump in.
No, definitely not. No, more of a one and done thing. You know, JFK is really prestigious. I've known so many people who did it and absolutely love it and recommend it. It's within driving distance. My parents can come, so I'm doing it with my friend Stephen Keller is also doing it. So yeah, I think it's more of a one and done thing. I'm just dabbling. I'm not going to become an ultra marathoner.
I will let that stay for now, you know, because you're the one who put it out there. So I'm just gonna let you go ahead and plant the seed, and over the next however many years, you know, see if we end up coming back to more ultras.
Okay.
So the funny thing is, I was planning to join you for that one, but I'm nowhere ready to do 50. So I'm gonna have to tap out.
Okay.
So I'm hoping it's not a one and done for you.
Okay.
Because I was like, oh, you know what? So you're gonna be in this part of the world, you know, I'll run 50 with you. But I'm gonna have to wait until the next 50, so that it's actually, you know, an enjoyable suffering versus just suffering.
Gotcha. Well, you still owe me a fast marathon.
Oh yes. Because
of our little bet.
I understand. So let me give you some context here. So Sika, you are now a sub 3-hour marathoner. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that everyone knows. And what is your current PR? What is your sub 3?
It was a 2:57:13, I think.
2:57:13. All right.
So you told me if I broke your PR, you would have to break my PR.
That is true. That is true. So I did my sub 3 several years back. And yes, right before you went for yours, I decided to talk a little trash.
Yep.
And poke the bear, and then you actually went out there and like got me by a few seconds.
Yep. So my goal was really like, I would have been okay with just 2:59, but I'm like, all right, I gotta get Lloyd's PR.
I love it.
He wanted to talk some trash.
I love it. Well, I just hit the track last week, and I got 2 track sessions in, and I've picked my 2022 event.
Okay.
So, you know, it's on the books. I've just gotta pay my money. And then I will, you know, talk trash moments before and moments after, to see if I'm able to take out your number.
Okay.
And that's hopefully I get it done before you lower it.
Exactly, because I plan to do that as well.
All right. Well, when are you planning? Are you racing soon? Just so I know.
No. I would absolutely love to, but you know how it is with triathlon. You have to focus on your weaknesses. So for me, obviously the swim and the bike. And yeah, my coach is definitely like, you need to take your mind off of running and like focus on these other events if you want to improve. So right now a marathon isn't on my schedule.
Okay. So I can still get my mind done before you decide to lower the number.
Exactly.
So that it's incrementally lower before you come after me again. I like that. I like that. But yeah, by this time next year, the number should be lower.
Yeah.
So
that is actually, I do have a landline at my house. I know people don't have landlines anymore, but I do. I have one.
Are you waiting for the great shutdown of just like, hey, when cell phones just go out, I'm gonna go back to hitting you on my.
Well, the problem is I live alone, and not that I should be saying that on the internet, but I live alone and I lose my cell phone all the time. So in order for me to find it, I have to. You gotta call yourself. Yeah, that, and I know whenever the phone rings, it's either a salesperson or it's my mother or my father. So that's it.
Okay.
There's only
Okay. Yeah. That's comedy. That's great though.
Yep.
So, all right. So now that you've got your we've got the sub 3. Let me jump over to, I know you've won 2 marathons before.
Yes.
So what is it like, running and winning a race? Like, what's the training that goes involved? You say that, you're a strong runner.
Right.
And before triathlon, that was really your thing, was, running fast for halves and half marathons and marathons. So,
Yeah.
take me through that, winning a marathon.
I mean, honestly, that came out of the blue. Of all the things I've accomplished, that one, the first marathon win, was probably the most shocking thing I've ever done. Because
Really?
yeah, I mean, I wasn't a distance runner. I didn't run like cross country in high school and college. I focused on the high jump, like the 4x400 relay. I had some speed, like sub 60-second speed in the 400 and stuff. But my long run was like 3 miles, a 3-mile loop around my campus.
Okay.
So I never showed any promise like towards, or any aptitude towards being a long distance runner. Like that never presented itself. And then even after college, I stopped pretty much running altogether. I mean, I'd casually go for a jog. So but yeah, when I did decide that I wanted to get back in shape, I started hopping in random 5Ks and stuff. And even then, it's not like I was breaking 20 minutes in a 5K or anything. I think I was running like maybe 21, 22-minute 5Ks. It actually wasn't until I tried my first triathlon and I started swimming and biking that all of a sudden, like, my times got significantly faster.
Really?
Yeah, I broke 1:30 in the half marathon and stuff. And I was like, okay, well, let me try a marathon. So, and the one marathon I did try was after college, and I wasn't trained for it. I was not prepared. I did not do long runs. I think I did 120-miler. I ended up puking all over the course and walking. It was just a really, really miserable experience. But yeah, once I introduced triathlon into my training regimen and swimming and biking, that's when my times came down. And yeah, the first marathon win was in 2015. Locally out here, the Newport News One City Marathon. My job, Ferguson, actually was one of the main corporate sponsors. And so it was a relatively small race. It's not like I won some huge, major race, but it was huge for me.
I mean, a win is a win. You gotta
exactly.
raise,
Hell yeah.
You gotta raise who shows up. I mean,
yep, exactly. Yeah, my only goal with that one was to pace myself, enjoy it, not go out too hard, try to negative split. There was a 3:20 pacer, I want to say, and I stuck with that crew for maybe the first half marathon or something, and I felt absolutely great. And I was running with so many guys, I never paid attention to place or anything. So it wasn't until like mile 22, all of a sudden I had all these bike pacers with me. And they were for the first female, and I'm like, what are you guys doing here? I'm like, am I in first? Like, you behind me. They're like, yeah. I'm like, are you sure? They're like, yeah. So they're like, keep going. And then, before you know it, I'm approaching the finish line, and they're announcing, here's our first woman, the women's champ of the One City Marathon, and they had the finish tape. And I mean, it was just shocking. It was really shocking. I called my parents after. They're like, how'd the marathon go? I'm like, I won. They're like, you what? I think my dad said something stupid like, what did you do? Drive half the course? They're like, no, I actually won. I was on a high for a while after that.
I can see him saying that too.
Yeah. Yep. And then the second win was actually the next year I did it again. And that was a different experience because there was a lot more hype. More people were in the race. It was more competitive. I put a lot of pressure on myself. I did interviews before the race, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to win this so bad. It's harder to stay on top, and you have more expectations and stuff. Right. So yeah, I freaked myself out. At this point, I had a coach, and I was really fit. She told me to go out conservative because that's how I tend to do well, is like negative split. But this time I didn't listen to her, and I went out with the top women because I wanted to win so bad.
Right.
And I found myself in a horrible place at about mile 17, and I almost dropped out. I'm like, I can't do this. This is so physically hard. I'm losing by a lot. But then I just kept telling myself, like, well, you can't drop out, get to mile 21, like just take it mile by mile. I knew at mile 21, my friend Crystal was going to be there, and she was going to be cheering for me. She was going to be on her bike and stuff. So I'm like, just get to mile 21, see Crystal. And if things are still bad, you can drop out. But when I got to mile 21, I'm like, all right, well, I only have 5 more miles. Crystal's here, like, you know. And then by mile 23, I want to say I had caught up to the first place woman and I passed her. So that was a really good learning experience for me. Like, you shouldn't just drop out. These long races are so long. You never know what's going to happen. And you just have to stay strong and just keep pushing through, because you never, the only thing that's certain is what's happening right now in this moment, but you don't know what's going to happen if you keep going. So,
I mean, what I find fascinating is that someone at your level who, you won the year before, you were in great shape, and you're having the same kind of conversation that someone in the middle and back of the pack is having, that internal conversation of wanting to drop out. It's hard, tapping out. And it's like, you always assume that it's only you having that conversation and not others, or, people who you perceive as stronger athletes or anything like that. It's like, wow, you're in the front and you're still having that conversation.
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, that's the whole point and like purpose of sport. And it's like, how much can you suffer? And no matter how fast you get, like, it's still just a suffer fest. I mean, every once in a while you'll have this amazing feeling like you're floating, but those type of races come along, like, I don't know, once every 10 years or something. But, there's always, and the longer the race is, the more points in the race you're going to have where you're questioning what you're doing, why you're doing it. Like, it hurts. You want to drop out. You want to walk, you go in and out of so many different emotions throughout a race. Yeah.
Now, have you had one of those races where you're just like on, floating and just is all great? Have you had one of those yet? Or are you still searching for it?
No. I mean, I look back at certain races after and I'm like, I didn't suffer as bad. Like when I broke 3 hours for the first time, granted, it was a very difficult race because it was during the pandemic last year. It was it was completely closed off. It was out and back, and we had to do it twice. We went off like 10 at a time, and there were only a handful of people. So I was pretty much in no man's land the entire race, just running by myself. So that was difficult, but I executed what my coach told me to do perfectly. Like, go out. I think I went out at 1:29:50 something. And going out conservatively, I felt great. Like, usually I start bonking around 17, 18, but I actually didn't start hurting really bad until about 23. So the fact that I felt really good for like 23 miles, that's a good race for me.
Okay. Yeah. So that great feeling can come after, not necessarily like right in the middle of the suffering.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Okay. I just wanted to set my expectations for, my next event. I didn't want to go chasing like this great feeling that never came. But if you're talking post event, okay.
Right. Yep.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
I had someone wanted to follow up with you on a question about your JFK training.
Tina Wilkerson, I see that. Hi, Tina. I can't actually see who's watching right now, so you'll have to, definitely post the questions. It is going not as quickly or as well as I was hoping at this point, to be honest with you. So my last race was Ironman 70.3 Augusta. And when I'm doing half Ironmans, my longest runs are no more than like 14 miles. So when you're trying, as you know, Coach Lloyd, when you're training for an ultra, you need to be getting in like 25-mile runs. So I wish I was further along at this point. There was actually a 50K out here. I talked to my coach about possibly doing, but my mileage just wasn't up there yet. So we didn't want to risk injury. It's definitely a hard balance when your tri season ends late and then you're switching over to a completely different event. I wish that my long runs were at my long runs were around 24 miles right now, and they're not quite there yet. But my coach doesn't want to risk me getting injured. So
yeah, good call.
Yeah.
It's never worth, they say it's always better to go in undertrained than overtrained. Yes. So
exactly.
One day of suffering and no injury versus, getting yourself hurt in
and not even showing up to the start line.
Everything else is messed up from there. So,
yep.
So you mentioned your 70.3 that you just did in Augusta. Now
Yes.
that, if I recall correctly, was your first event that you did as a pro triathlete. Is that correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
we don't have to talk about it. It was really bad. Speaking of feeling like hell for an entire race, that one wins hands down.
Okay. Well, I did have some other questions around that. One of the things was I remember that once you got your professional card, I believe you announced sometime after that what race you were going to do.
Yeah.
And then, life happens, things were going on, and you made the smart choice for yourself to say, you know what, I'm not going to race whatever race I was scheduled to do. I'm going to take a little time for myself. Yes. And then, you took some time, and then you came back with the Augusta race as your debut race.
Yeah.
And I just kind of want to dive into that a little bit, because I know, with like the Olympics, we saw that in tennis, where athletes and taking time for themselves, like prioritizing self and self-care versus the noise from the outside world of what other people's expectations are for them, and putting yourself first to make sure that you were good. And then when I saw you do that, I was like, wow, okay. It
was actually before the Olympics, before the whole Simone Biles and stuff. I do believe you have to put your mental health first. That's more important than winning any race. And you're happy, you have to prioritize your happiness and stuff. I mean, granted, you make certain commitments and you can't just, if you sign a contract or something, you can't just bail. But mental health, and if you are partnered with a company that cares about you enough, they also want you to put that first. So for me, I wasn't expecting to feel how I felt after I got my pro card. The first 2 weeks I was on cloud 9. I was so happy. That was my goal for so many years. And then to finally have achieved it, it was just monumental. I mean, I was celebrating like every single day in my head. I mean, not like I still had to go back to work and life went on as normal. But the first 2 weeks were cool. I was getting hit up by so many companies and like social media, and I got like thousands of followers overnight, and it was like, oh my God, this is so cool. But then I registered for my first pro race, which was supposed to be Rev 3 Williamsburg. And I was actually really excited when I registered for it because I'm familiar with the course. It's in my backyard. I could sleep at home. But then out of nowhere, I got really, I guess it was depression. I don't know. It's not like I went to see a mental health expert, but I did feel really down. I didn't really know what I was doing. I lost a lot of passion, for training. Before I would I would put myself through hell in training because it was worth it, because the goal was to get my pro card. So I knew everything that I was doing was for a reason, and that reason was very important to me. But then once I hit it and I got my pro card and I went back into training, I'm like, why am I putting myself through this? Why am I about to puke on this track? Or, why am I getting nervous pre-race type jitters before I go to the pool for a workout? Why am I putting myself through all this? I've already accomplished what I had in mind. And it was because I never saw past getting my pro card. It was that was the goal. And then there was nothing else. I never thought beyond that. So I was just going through a lot of, I don't even know, personal emotional turmoil, trying to figure out what I wanted to do next and not having a goal. And I'm so goal oriented. And then, dealing with everything, trying to balance things when it came to sponsor stuff. I never, I've had partnerships and on a small scale, but then all of a sudden, you're reading contracts and you're like, oh, and some of them are for up through 2023. And I'm like, I don't even know if I want to be doing this long, yikes. And then there's, there is decent money. So, you're like, do I want to just take the money, or how much do I feel that I like this product and this company, and do they represent me and what I stand for? So there was just so much going on, and I felt very alone, like lonely, and it was really hard. I mean, my parents 100% support me, but they don't know much about this sport and contracts and stuff. So yeah, just so much going on. So I decided to pull out of that race. I was training, I was really fit, but I was miserable. And I didn't want to go into that race to just do it. And yeah, like, who wants to do a 70.3 just to like appease other people? I'm like, I can't imagine just, putting myself through all that. So yeah, I decided it wasn't the right time for me.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing that how often, folks forget about the after.
Yes.
We all have the expectations, the plans. You train for your half Ironman, your marathon, your Ironman, or whatever, and then at the end it's like, okay, now what?
Right.
What happens when everything goes, and now you got to get yourself back up to go do it again.
Yeah.
But I could only imagine that since you're in your circle, I'm not sure if you have friends who are pros or whatnot, but I could only figure that getting your pro card and then now you're faced with all of those decisions and options. It's like, you got to feel alone. It's like, who do you call
right.
in your circle who, can guide you through, like, hey, you know what? In your real world, you have your network of who you would call for just about everything.
Exactly.
But all new frontier.
Right.
And new territory. So it's like, okay, who do I call?
Yeah, and I didn't really know pros then. Now I do. They were, especially the women, were just so amazing in my first pro race, and now we're good friends and stuff. But for the most part, I didn't really know anyone, and I didn't know who to ask or who to go to besides my coach. And poor Coach Johnny, he's like a psychiatrist and I drive him crazy. So he did help me deal with a lot of things. We've just been like through so many ups and downs together. So I really appreciate him and his guidance. So I would say he's probably the number one person that I leaned on. In fact, he saw this, he kind of predicted all this happening before it happened. Right after I got my pro card, he said, some people, he's like, I've seen this again and again. People will go to the Olympics and they're on this high, like they qualified for their first Olympics game, and then they come home and then they get depressed after. And then I think he also named, I forgot who he was really good friends with that won the IRONMAN World Championships back in the day. And it was unexpected and he was like ecstatic, and then he went through depression. So he's like, it's not uncommon. And of course, I'm on a high. I'm like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I'm not gonna go through depression after this. Are you kidding me? And,
right.
And then he kind of called it. I did. I started going through exactly what he said. You start questioning things, and yeah, you come down off that high. And yeah, he said that.
Wow. Well, someone, Annette has a question. She wants to know, talking about coaches, since you mentioned it, how do you select your coach? What should a novice like her look for in a triathlon coach?
Okay. Hi, Annette. Thanks for joining. Interview. Like, I actually interviewed a ton of coaches before I settled on Johnny. I did have a coach before him. It was through a program, and she was phenomenal. It was when I was a newbie in the sport. I had no idea what I was doing. So she was perfect in that way in terms of introducing me to nutrition. Her name's Susan Flanagan. She's based out of Canada. And yeah, I was clueless. I didn't know about tapering and structured training and, how many calories to consume during a half Ironman. Like, I was just absolutely clueless. So she was phenomenal in terms of introducing me to the sport. So that was more of a pairing. It's not like I went out and searched for her. It was through a program, and I lucked out in that way. And then when I decided I did want to go pro, I looked for somebody who coached at the elite level. They had a solid roster of athletes who produced phenomenal results. And they also had top elite age groupers who could go pro or have qualified to go pro. So I was looking at coaches there, and I interviewed a few of them, both locally. I'm like, oh, I think I need somebody like looking over me and like at my practices and stuff. And then also remotely, I'm like, can I do this whole remote thing? And so with Johnny, I felt like, number one, he believed in me when I said that I wanted to turn pro, even though I was slow. Like I look back, I'm like, oh my God, I had some nerve putting that out there. But yeah, I felt like he had the confidence that he could turn me into a pro. And he was pretty much like, it's going to be a lot of hard work. You're going to have to train twice a day, every day. It's not, you're not going to just get it next year. It's going to take a couple of years. I like that he holds me accountable. Like he'll put a certain workout in, and if I, the repeats or something, and I'm supposed to hit a certain pace and I don't do it, he will literally, like, as soon as I upload the workout, he'll text me like, what happened with that workout? Explain this to me. So he's looking, he's present. We communicate every single day, even though he's based out of Canada. We're constantly messaging each other. So I feel like he's really involved. So I think it's finding that chemistry, and like, don't be afraid. Like, you don't have to settle on the first coach you talk to. Like, you should talk to a lot of different coaches, talk to their athletes, see what they like about being coached, why they chose that coach, and give it a few months. Don't feel like you are beholden to stay with that coach and you feel bad leaving them because it's not working. You're paying the money for them, and I pay for my coaching with Johnny. So I want to feel like I'm getting my money's worth. So yeah, I would say, talk to other athletes, talk to that coach, lay out questions, determine what it is that you want from that relationship with the coach and what your goals are, and if they can help fulfill those goals. Because, some coaches are hardcore and they don't want to hear like, oh, I have kids and I have to go to a soccer game and blah, blah, blah. They're like, no, you need to do the workout. Well, that's not the right coach for you. You need to find a coach that understands what your lifestyle is like and how he can make that training plan work for you.
That's great. I mean, I like that, the laying out your expectations and, different coaches for different things. Because right, your current coach may not be the coach for a beginner or right. A novice. He
would not be. No offense. I hope he's not watching this. He would
that may not be where his interest lies.
Right.
So that's not necessarily the athlete that might want to work with him, but someone looking to turn pro like you is like, hey, that's what they need. Someone in working with those dynamics.
Yeah.
Let's see, going back into your pro card area, Mashonda has a question. She says, now that you have your pro card, do you feel pressure to perform differently than you did before?
Unfortunately, I do. I wasn't expecting that either. I thought when I got my pro card, I'm like, who cares how I do? I got my pro card. Like, I made history. Like, I don't care if I come in last, like, this is what I was thinking initially. And then reality hits. And I'm a competitor. Like, we care about our performances. I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to embarrass my support crew. And, I still want to do well. Like, that's inside of me. So I do feel pressure from myself to perform well. My first pro race, I was the last pro. I came in last. That is not, I'm embarrassed by it. I was embarrassed by my performance. So yeah. And I would say the pressure doesn't come from my parents or my coach or my sponsors or anything like that. It's self-induced. Yeah. And it's hard because I feel like I'm starting over. Before, when I was trying to get my pro card, my goal was always to be one of the top amateurs, right? Like, so I'm like on the podium and all that stuff that was happening, and it was great. And now I'm last again and I have to figure this new style of racing out that I didn't realize. So there's a learning curve to like a racing in the pro field. It
sounds almost kind of like, being a big fish in a small pond, like, king of high school, queen of high school.
Yeah.
And you're the star. And then you go to college and you realize that everybody in college was a star back at their high school somewhere, and now you're all at the same university, competing. It's like next level kind of a thing where
exactly, well said. That is totally how it feels. Even if you compare 2019 Augusta, when I did a half Ironman there, versus this one. So when I did it then, it was 5 months after a bad bike accident that I had, and my goal was to come in top for my amateur there. And, I got on the podium. I was 6th amateur overall, and I had beat by time other pros. And then it's like you're thrown into this whole different other game where Well, we weren't, the amateurs were allowed to wear wetsuits, or age groupers were allowed to wear wetsuits. Pros were not allowed to wear wetsuits. I started first and there was only maybe 15 of us. So I actually did not see, once we took off in the water, I never saw another swim cap or anything. I'm used to like being able to spot caps. And then when I got on the bike course, my bike was the only one on the rack. So that's demoralizing. It's completely different. It is so different. So yeah, I do feel some pressure to perform a lot better than I just did.
Well, take it from me. You know, I've come out of many swims with my bike being the only one out there. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. I know it hurts. I know it hurts at first. I hope it never happens to you too many more times in the future. But you know, it builds character. You know, right. it'll be all right. You know, man, we've all seen our bikes there waiting for us. You know, but I feel like
I didn't like it. That hasn't happened to me before. I didn't like it.
No one say you gotta like it. You know, but you know, I think there's something about having a setback that really propels, you know, puts a fire underneath athletes. Yeah. You know, when things come easy, it just kind of rolls through. But I think, you know, great athletes, when you have a setback or, you know, you get an eye opener, you know, now that you've had that, I suspect that your motivation of why you want to wake up in the morning and put your head down and puke on the track, I think you probably just found it.
Yeah. Well, I told my coach after, I was like, I needed that like I needed that experience to like get back in the game and to like have the motivation to keep training at this level.
Yeah, it's kind of like they just moved the ball down a little bit, and now you had to like, oh, okay,
yes,
you know, forget about top age group and why I'm hurling. Now it's like, hey, I got to beat some of these other folks out here. So
and not even beat them just yet, but learn how to race, like have my swim competitive enough that I'm not getting out the water minutes behind and then biking the entire course by myself. So there's all these little things that I need to learn how to do now.
So when you say learn how to race, can you clarify a little bit? Because, you know, most of us, we're all thinking it's the same. You know, we all show up, we all do triathlon, and you know, we all get to race with the pros, or as I say, the pros get to race with us because it's more of us than it is of you guys.
Right.
But from what you mentioned previously on some of your other posts, it's clearly like different rules, different setups, a whole different race almost.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so drafting on the swim is more important than ever. Like getting out of the water with people so that as soon as you get on your bike, you have something like a pace line, like people like position. Certain things aren't as important. So before, when I was an age grouper, I was really just doing my own race, right? And like just focusing on moving steadily. Like I was kind of in my own zone. If I found somebody that was kind of like around my pace and I could keep 20-meter draft legal zone on the bike, I would try to stick with them. And then on the run, as an age grouper, my run was very competitive. So I'm like, okay, well, I can always run people down, you know, on the run. Well, there's no running anybody down when you get out the water 10 minutes behind, you get off the bike 20 minutes behind, like that's different. So there's more like games being played and like deciding when you're going to go on the bike. You know, is it better to stay behind and like kind of pace off of everybody else versus leading it and conserve some of your energy and just like let them dictate the pace? And so it's true racing. You're racing other people. You're racing a pack of women.
Okay. Yeah. I think most of us are, like you just said, we're racing ourselves and you know, you find that cluster of people who are around the same pace and you just kind of, you know, leapfrog most of the day.
Right.
As you go, and you know, you're going to, if I see you on the bike, I'll probably see you on the run. And then it's, you know, let's see who can outlast the other person without slowing down as much before we get to the finish line.
Exactly. Yeah. And just little things like, you know, for age groupers, if the water is 77 or 76 degrees or something below, they can wear a wetsuit. We can't. So, you know, even when age groupers are like, oh yeah, I outswam some of the pros, I'm like, well, they didn't have a wetsuit on. Like they're like 5 minutes slower, right? Like it's different.
So are you now saying I'm going to have to care about the advantages I have against the pros now?
No, you don't need to think about the pros at all.
Now that I know one, I'm going to have to be concerned. You know, before I was just like, you know, I was the one looking at the stats. And when some of my friends would swim fast, I'm like, oh yeah, they outswam the pros. Now you're telling me they didn't actually have an advantage.
I was guilty of that. When I did Augusta in 2019, I beat a few pros, and I remember thinking, oh, that's so cool. I was faster than the pros. And now I look back and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, because it was a completely different race. Like, it's so different. You cannot compare those times at all. Yeah, like, I didn't beat no pros.
So now you're gonna end up confirming that the wetsuit makes a huge difference.
It does for me. I swim weight, so I'm a weak swimmer. I don't have a kick. I'm all pull, and my pull is weak. So having that buoyancy, like, I swim way faster with a pull buoy. Yeah, I like, when I did Challenge Miami earlier this year, I was way more competitive because I had a wetsuit on. So yeah, I say that, gosh, 4 to 5 minutes I swim faster with the wetsuit. It's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm one of those people, my bottom half just sinks. It's useless, and I'm just dragging it through the water. But when I have a wetsuit on, I float, and yeah, it's great. It's gravy. But I need to accept that I probably won't ever be able to race with a wetsuit on again unless I go somewhere where the water is absolutely frigid.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to go like Escape from Alcatraz or you know, something like that, where, you know, it's 50 something, so
exactly
everybody gets to wear one.
Yep.
You know, but the suffering there is just next level. I'm not even sure how much fun that is for you.
Yeah. No, not worth it.
Because I go to races, and when I see athletes that, you know, at wetsuit races where it's not wetsuit legal, where it's above that 76 point, I think it's 1 or 3 or something like that.
Right.
But you know, now Ironman usually allows like a wetsuit category, and you know, athletes get to wear it if they want to, but they're just not eligible for age group awards. You know, whenever I see that large group, I'm always like, man, I really, you know, I hope for the next year they get the confidence to swim without it. Because sometimes I'm always like, man, you know, that water is really, really warm. You know, it's not really safe, even if it's, you know, allowed. It's like, you know, but some folks just, you know, feel like they need it. So, but what's interesting is at your pace, it's funny that you still think you're not a good swimmer, where you're still in the front of the pack, you know, but it's all relative. Yeah,
no, I'm not in the front of the pack with the swim.
Well, I mean, you know, you're getting on the podium, so, you know.
Well, because the other disciplines, especially my run, make up for it. Especially my run. So I always have confidence. Like, even if I have a terrible swim, a decent bike, I know if I can put together, you know, if you can run a sub 130 off the bike, you can move yourself way up the field pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's 130 off the bike. That's really impressive. No,
but in a pro field, it doesn't matter though, because I ran, I think, like 128 or something like that at Augusta, and it didn't do anything. So you got to, in the pro field, you got to be running like low 124 to be competitive.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry, I saw you posted a question up there. I missed it.
No, I'll come back to it. I'm just trying to do the math on that. You know, I don't count that low. So the 130, sub 130 was giving me the, you know, so what's that, a 650?
Yeah, I think I ran like
type pace, 50 something.
Yeah, I think I ran like 648 pace or something.
Okay.
Yeah. 128
so
something.
When you drop down to that 124, we're really moving. You're in the 630 category off the bike.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm going to try to get there just fresh, not even off the bike. But let me circle back to a question that someone asked, you know, while you were going through your training, you know, you had that down feeling. How did you get out of that funk of not having ambition to train after the pro card? Was there anything specific that you did or came into play?
I spent a couple weeks not focusing on me, really. Like finding other things in the sport that I really enjoyed. So once I pulled out of Rev 3 Williamsburg, that week, they also had a kids duathlon. And I had spoken to the program. They're called Grit Masters. It's predominantly African-American kids in the inner city, and they were training for the duathlon. So I went and I spoke to them about why I do the sport and what I love about the sport, and kind of encouraged them. And then I decided the day before I was supposed to race to go support them at that race. And that brought me like a lot of joy and like passion for being in the sport again. And then also that weekend, the Fast Chicks had their annual meetup, and we did like a banquet and stuff like that. I had brunch actually. And I did like a live panel there and got to answer questions and stuff about, you know, why I do the sport and what I liked about it. So I think just interacting with other people, and then like going to the race and cheering other people on, and like seeing how excited people were to cross the finish line, it reignited that passion in me. And yeah, it was nice to just kind of step away and not think about me and like podiums and all that stuff, and just to be present and enjoy the experience with others, and yeah, seeing and just talking to other people. I think that helped, like being able to step back. You're muted.
All right, there you go. I saw the picture of I guess your brunch.
Yes.
And I was like, man, I wish I had driven down there just so I could be at the brunch when I saw the panel. It was, I mean, if there is a Hall of Fame all-star cast of you know, characters, like that brunch was, you know, where I would want to be at, you know, if that group get together again. I mean, it was you, it was Khadijah Diggs, it was Vaughn Spencer, and then I think Mashonda was emceeing and throwing the questions out to you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was awesome. It was so much fun.
I saw that. I was like, oh man. I was like, that was like, you know, I could only imagine the knowledge that was dropped on that group from that panel. I mean, I saw, I was like, oh, I wish I was down there just for that.
Yeah, it was really cool. And just to hear their perspectives also, and like the advice that they were giving and stuff, to hear things from, their experience in the sport. It was really nice to be on the panel.
I know the half is your sweet spot. You love that distance. I'm always trying to talk you into more longer distances, and you kind of gave in a tad bit when someone else, you know, invited you and gave you an opportunity, and you went ahead and did Ironman Kona World Championships. Tell me about that experience. I was out there, so I got to witness it. I was super excited that I could see it go down. But as a person who loves to do the half, you know, tell me about, you know, the 2019 Ironman World Championship.
Oh my gosh. Hardest thing I've ever done. That was super tough. So I never wanted to do a full Ironman ever. That was never on my bucket list, not something I ever wanted to try or do. And partly because I know the training that is involved to do well at it, and how much I was already giving just for the half and working a full-time job. So that was part of it. And I mean, that's just a long time to be out there suffering all day. Like, no, thank you. I think it's awesome that other people do it. Like, kudos to them, but I'm like, that ain't for me. But yeah, so after my accident, so I'm sponsored by Hoka. Hoka gets a slot since they're one of the major sponsors of Ironman and the Ironman World Championships. So they get pretty much a ticket that they can give to one of their athletes to do it. And Eric Gilsonen called me up, and he's like, and this was right after my crash, a couple months after my crash. He's like, yeah, so we have a slot we'd love to give to you. And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think I want to do that. Like, thank you, but no thank you. But I'm like, all right, let me sleep on it. So after I talked to my dad, I talked to my coach, I talked to my mentor, Dan Amfield. So, you know, I talked to like my crew. They're like, this is a once in a lifetime experience. Like, you got to just go and do Kona. And my coach was pretty confident that I would be able to get through the race even on short notice. So yeah, I did Augusta, and then 2 weeks later I did Kona. So still sort of recovering, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's I had some guilt because I didn't qualify and I got to have that experience. So I did feel a little guilty about that. So I wrestled with that for a little bit, but I'm so happy that I took that slot, and it's just something that I just cherish. I mean, saying you're an Ironman is incredible, but to say that you crossed the finish line in Kona, like one of the toughest races in the world, is just, there were definitely times where I'm like, I'm not going to make it through this. I'm not going to survive, like, and I'm sure, everybody goes through that. It's just so hard. Like the elements, the climbing on the bike, the crosswind was absolutely insane. Having to run a marathon after and it getting dark, and oh, I can kind of see town far away. I don't know if I'll ever get there. So just a lot of ups and downs, but altogether just a beautiful event. And there's nothing like it. And I really hope that they do bring it back in October so that people can have that experience.
I think they've figured out a solution for 2022. They're moving to a new format where women are on one day and men are on a different day,
right?
So that they can accommodate all the years of folks that have missed it.
Right. Yep. I hope so.
Now, when you did it, what I mean, it's all crazy, but was there is one part of the day worse than the next, or is it just like a complete cluster?
The first half of the swim was actually okay, because the water's so warm and it's buoyant and it's beautiful and stuff like that. And finally, once the cannon blows, like your nerves kind of calm down a little. So on the 1.2 miles out, I was actually okay with the swim. And then, they're like, oh, you just swim around the boat. No, it's not just a boat. It's like a big ass yacht. It's huge. Like the closer I got, I'm like, this is huge. So then finally I turn around and I look out and I can't see shore. I'm like, oh my God, I still have to swim all the way back. So that was eye-opening for me.
You're usually done at the turn of the yacht. You normally get
great. I felt like ready to get out and get on my bike. No, I had to swim around this huge ship and then not see shore for a really long time. And so in the 1.2 miles back felt like it took forever. They got really choppy. I was just like all over the place. In fact, for the first time, my dad said, for the first time, you didn't acknowledge me when you got out the water, because he was cheering for me. But I was so like in distress, like, oh my gosh, now I need to go bike 112 miles. So it was like every moment, I think because it was my first full Ironman, had I done previous ones or something, maybe my perception of the race would have been different. But because everything was new to me, even the level of competition there, this was when you had to qualify, you pretty much had to win. You had to win your age group or come in top 2, at an Ironman to go there. So everybody's crazy fast. Everybody knows what they're doing, because even if they qualified through Legacy, they've done like 15, 20 of these things. So here I am. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just looking around, looking at what everybody else is doing. And then once I got going on the bike, the first part after you get to Palani, when you're on the Queen K, it's flat. The wind isn't that bad. So I'm like, this is okay. This is doable. The first 15 miles were fine. And then the climb up to Hawi with the crosswinds, I got blown off my bike. I'm like, this is crazy. This is the craziest thing I have ever done. So just like wrapping my mind around that. And then when you turn around at Hawi and you get your nutrition back, I thought people would stop and eat, use the porta potty. No, everybody just blows through, grabs their bag, is like eating and throwing things everywhere as they're biking. I'm like, and I'm trying to do it too. I'm like, this is nuts. Totally nuts. And then I think I saw you and my dad on the way back, and I told you, I'm like yelling from my bike that I fell. I got blown off my bike. I didn't want to do the marathon. I went in the changing tent. I just sat there and I'm like, I am not doing this marathon. Like, you can't make me, So just so many ups and downs. And now I can look back and laugh, but at the time it was traumatic.
Oh yeah. I mean, your dad and I were hanging out for the whole day, and we kept ourselves very entertained and amused. And when you came in, we were having a great time, but we realized you were not having fun.
No. I looked at you guys like that. I just want to stand. I can't do this. Yeah.
He was like, yeah, she doesn't usually, look like that. And I was like,
Usually I get excited for the run, right? I'm
Right.
like, all right, now it's on to my strength. And instead I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to run a full marathon, you know? And then it's awesome. Like the first few miles on a Lee drive, it's, you know, there's helicopters and cameras and everybody's out there cheering and you get hype and like your adrenaline boosts and it's awesome. And you're like, oh, okay, I can do this. And you just go, I went out too fast. And then, you know, once you run up Palani, which is like this,
Yeah.
and then you get to the top on the Queen K and then there's nobody and it's silent and the top people are coming back and they look miserable. And, you know, you're just, and it's hot. It's really hot at that point. And it's just like, okay, yeah, what did I get myself into?
It sounds like a great time.
No. I'm like, I never drank Coca-Cola before. And I remember my coach saying, if you feel really bad, start drinking Coke. I'm like drinking Coke. I'm like, well, I haven't had Coke since I was 13. This is terrible, you
know. So I guess I shouldn't ask whether you'd go and do it again.
Nope. Done. You were convinced. You were like, no, that won't be your last one. You're going to do so many more. This is just no.
You know, I'm still holding out. I'm still holding out that, you know, there is another one in your future.
No,
you know,
not happening. Nope.
I'm convinced. You know, and now that you're a pro, I realize it may be a different time schedule because you've got, you know, other obligations and, you know, your schedule is no longer just whatever you come up with and what, you know, what makes you happy. Now you've got responsibilities.
Yeah.
But, you know, once all of that is worked out and give it a little time, I still hold out that, you know, there'll be another one in your future. And, you know, depending on when and where it is, I might be like, hey, let me know where you're going. And I'll come and join the suffering with you just so that, you know, we can be out there together. Cause, you know, I feel like anytime you do one, you know, you just can't just do one. You know, you
I will prove you wrong.
All right. You know, I've got a long memory. I'm not even worried. I'm not even worried about, you know, it just being one.
Okay.
So switch it up to some shorter distances. I've got a couple questions here I want to make sure I get to. Marcus wants to know about how about more shorter distances that you're going to race or road cycling events. Is that something you're into with, you know, just cycling events?
No, but he is, you know, and it would make sense for me to do that. You know, he's a good cyclist, Marcus. So, and I think all those cycling events and like being on your road bike and practicing bike handling skills is something that's really important and vital to doing well in a race, especially at the pro level. So I have been getting on my road bike more. I have a gravel bike. I would like to be on those more, and I would like to do more group riding on that instead of just being on a TT time trial all the time. That's something my coach and I have been talking about, how to incorporate that throughout, you know, this season without racing. I don't think I will ever do a road race. I don't think that's very smart. I end up taking everybody out. I don't feel that comfortable on a bike like that, but I would like to start doing more group riding for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
In terms of shorter distances, I would actually love to. I wanted to do some sprints in Olympics this past summer, but to be honest with you, I don't know how that works when you turn pro because there are less. Like, I don't know if I can just show up at a regular, like before when I was coming back from a crash, I did shorter, you know, like a Rev 3 sprint or something like that. But I was an age grouper. I don't know if I can just show up as a pro and do those type of races. So I have to look into that.
I guess there probably have to be a pro field or something like that.
Right.
You know, at the event, I guess, for you to maybe participate.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I did notice, I think like they had the LA this past weekend, they had the LA Herbalife Olympic non-draft legal. So I think as a pro, like for the pro field. So, and they have like the New York City Triathlon, and there are a few options. Escape from Alcatraz. I will not do Escape from Alcatraz, but there are some options out there. So I will look into that next year. I think doing shorter distance stuff would be better.
Okay. I mean, Alcatraz is an experience that I think every triathlete should have.
But I won't.
But I won't
have that experience.
I won't put any money on that one. Another Ironman, absolutely. I'm taking odds on that for sure. Yeah. Alcatraz, I'm not as confident in that prediction for you just yet, so I'll hold off on that one.
Okay, with the full Ironman thing, so the only little bit of hope is that I'm annoyed. I've only done one, and it was Kona, and my PR or what I did was, 11 and a half hours. So I don't like that being my one and done time. I'm not happy with that. So
I didn't say how I was going to get you to do another one.
I got to find a flat, fast course.
I just said, I know it's going to go down. No one can just do one. Not if you're in the lifestyle. You just can't. You just can't. It just calls you. It just calls you. Take it from me. I know. You just can't. You can't stay away. So well, when that happens, just let me know. We can work it out, figure it out. Even if I'm not racing that one, if it's not on my schedule, I may show up just so I can hang out with your dad and we chill for the day.
He wouldn't support. He wouldn't support this, by the way. My parents do not want me doing another full Ironman.
Well, we'll leave them out of the discussion then until that time. No need to loop them in. It's after when we're hanging out while you're racing that we'll talk about. Oh man, why did she do this other one? She should have just never done it.
My mother wasn't okay with Kona. She was like, "Why can't you just do a small local race?" And of course, my dad's like, "I want to go to Hawaii. Like, let's do Kona." I thought my mom was gonna just kill him after that.
Well, I guess they both had good reasons. So it's interesting when you have two good voices in your head, but they're pulling in different directions.
Yeah.
Well, I got a couple more questions from folks. I just wanted to give you a chance to answer. Coke and pickle juice. Someone said that got them through the Nolan Trail 50K, so that might be something for you to try. Okay. But she also wanted to know about some things you do to help with recovery. Are you doing ice baths, massages?
Everything. I stretch religiously every day, especially the older I get. Oh my gosh, I have to stretch. So I do that. I foam roll, but I don't foam roll with a foam. Like I foam roll with a PVC pipe, which is really hard, but it really helps.
Okay.
So it's super duper hard. So I do that religiously. I do have a massage gun that I use when I'm watching TV. Right now, I kind of have like a little bit of an Achilles thing going on. So I've been doing ice heat, like 10 minutes in ice water, 10 minutes in hot water, back and forth. And then I use my compression boots. Speedhound is the brand, which I love. It's affordable. And I like all the settings and stuff. So, and it's easy to transport. So yeah, I use my Speedhound air compression boots.
Okay. Got a full recovery plan going on there.
I'm looking at it, like looking around, like I have stuff everywhere. By the TV, of course. Every time I'm on Netflix, I'm like, all right.
I need a little bit more detail on this PVC pipe. I mean,
like, it's downstairs in my gym.
Like a straight PVC old school pipe that you're.
Yeah.
Are you using it like a stick?
No, like from Home Depot. Like, like the pipe. Yeah. Like cut. And it's like, yeah. And I roll on that. Like I can't use a regular foam roller now. It doesn't dig deep enough. PVC pipe is the way to go.
All right, you heard it here. You're gonna have folks going out to Home Depot getting themselves a PVC pipe, cutting it to length, and rolling out. I take no responsibility for
you'll be seeing less injured people now because they're buying PVC pipe.
So David wants to know, is that a 4 or 6 inch pipe that you're rolling on, or how long do you have
it's not a stick, like it's a huge pipe. So it's about 4 feet in width, I guess. And then it's pretty, like, if they're looking, it's like this. Yeah, it's white. Yeah. But it's amazing. The first few times you do it, it's painful. Like you can't put much pressure on, but then you start getting used to it.
All right. I mean, you know what? I may actually go to Home Depot and get one. Or you know what? I might go there and just roll out around on the pipe in the Home Depot in the
Yeah.
section
Yeah.
and see what it's like before I commit to buying one and bringing it home, just to test it out. So
Yeah.
now I just got one more question was from David, was asking, how do you dig deep and find that drive yourself without breaking yourself?
Oh, dig deep and drive yourself without breaking. I feel like there's always a little bit left in you, even when you think there isn't. I was telling somebody this. I forgot what Coach Triathlete said this, but she, as the race goes on towards the end, she pretends she's a ketchup packet. And you know, with like a ketchup packet, like when you're squeezing it, there's still always a little bit left. Like no matter how much you keep squeezing, there's always a little left. So I think about that at times. I actually used those thoughts at Augusta when I was suffering really bad, even on the run. You know, I kept thinking about dropping out pretty much every mile, but then I'm like, no, there's still a little more left in you. It's just in your head. This is normal pain. Like you can handle more than you think. So I do think about that. Sometimes I go back to other races where I also was like at my breaking point. I thought I was and ready to drop out, but then I still found a little left. So, and it works. So like Augusta, even though I was dying, I ended up negative splitting the run. So as much as I thought I was suffering, I didn't look at my watch, but when I upload the data later, my last few miles were my fastest. So yes, I think about the ketchup packet thing. And then also just little things like it's like sometimes you're just like in this dark tunnel and you feel like you're never going to get out, but there's always light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes you just have to keep going. It might take a few miles, but you'll get there eventually if you just keep moving forward. So just keep moving forward no matter what. Like don't stop.
Wow, that is great. I'm gonna have to visualize that one at my next event and see if it holds for me. I try out all kind of different things and see what sticks.
Yeah.
And if it works, I use it again. If not, I'm like, oh, that didn't work for me on this particular event. So I'll try the ketchup packet on the next one.
Yeah.
So. Well, before I let you go, let me just say, thanks for taking some time to talk to me. I've got your information up if folks are looking to connect with you. Your website is sikahenry.com. All your Instagram, your Twitter, all of those handles are at Sika Henry, so they can find you and follow you and your amazing journey. As well as I know that your blog is whyiron.blogpost.com. And your whole journey to becoming a pro was detailed, documented, for everyone to read and follow. So will you be doing something similar as a pro? Like, here's the pro version of that, or are you just going to take them?
Well, I'm trying to figure that out. So when I started my blog, it was when I started just doing my first triathlon, so years ago. And that was when blogs were more popular and people were reading. But then I've learned over the past 2 years, people don't really read anymore. And it was becoming like when I would post before, we get thousands of hits. And then I saw that kind of dwindling. I think people are more into like fast consumption and like watching YouTube videos and stuff when they're on their bike trainer. I don't think I have the time to start a YouTube channel. I would absolutely love to do that and like include my family and stuff. So we'll see. They live closer now. They live in Richmond now. So maybe some YouTube stuff. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, so that might be.
So the next iteration, from the blog and the writing to something else.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. And finally, I've got to ask, so when's the book coming out?
Oh gosh, not enough material yet.
I'm like,
it's not over. The story isn't over yet.
No, but the starting part, becoming a pro, that part is a story. Then you got to give me like, the next book, my life as a pro, and then my, post-pro book.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, there could be multiples. Yeah,
I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there. I'm sure you've heard it before, but I think that the journey you embarked on up to this point is a standalone story by itself that should be told. And best in your own words versus anyone else's since you lived it. So I think we can all learn a lot from your experiences that got you all the way up to this point.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, my dad is convinced that there will be a movie eventually, and Zoe Saldana will play me.
All right.
He's like, because a crash is involved. He's like, you notice how, those movies, it's because something really, really bad happened. And he's like excited to tell this stuff too. I'm like, Dad.
I mean, that it's got the whole arc and everything,
Yeah.
I mean, the comeback story, the drama.
Yeah.
So hey, he might be onto something. I wouldn't put it out there.
Yeah.
I'm laughing that he's already picked your actress. We've got to figure out who he's gonna pick to play him in the movie.
Oh, role. Nobody can play him but him, according to him. Yes.
He's got. I don't think they do that anymore. I don't think they let you act as yourself anymore. You tell him to put some time into thinking about who play him.
Okay.
So anyway, Sika, thank you so much for talking to me. Look forward to seeing you at future races. And of course, everyone knows where to find you on your website, on your blogs and everything else if they ever have any questions.
Thank you for having me on the show.
I will talk to you later.
Okay, yep, good to see you.
If you like the video, make sure you hit the like button, share, subscribe, and hit the notification button.